This is Business Leaders with Lance Cardoza, the behind-the-scenes story of the business shakers and movers in the Valley and beyond. And now, here's your host, Lance Cardoza.
Good morning, everybody. Another edition of Business Leaders Live. I'm Lance Cardoza, and this week I have an exceptional business leader that I've brought in on Zoom. So we're streaming live on our platforms on Zoom, so you can see our guest. And also, we're broadcasting right into the station here at the new Talk Radio 1550 KXEX. Big reminder, it's that time of the year where we're closing nominations for the businessstreetonline.com's 40 under 40. So if you have somebody under the age of 40 that needs to be recognized, especially in this year, the class of 2020, that is a year that people have picked themselves up by the bootstraps. They've innovated, they've figured out how to survive during this pandemic, and maybe they need to be recognized. Make sure you go to 40.com. That's 40u40.com and submit your nomination today for the Business Street Online's 40 under 40. This week on Business Leaders Live, he comes from Sierra Pacific Orthopaedics. He's also the co-founder of Verahealth platform. I have on the program, I have Richard Lembo. Most people know him by Rick. And I came to know Rick. I was introduced to Rick by a gentleman that I've done a lot of business with sports broadcasting, and I was working with the gentleman we all know. We know the iconic voice of Dan Taylor. And Dan Taylor said, Lance, what you're working with in the concert business and trying to help venues get back open, this gentleman and his partners created this platform called Verahealth, and you got to look into it. It's pretty incredible. But first, let's talk about Rick. What you grew up in the area, or give us a little background on yourself.
Good morning, Lance, and thank you. Yes, and we did meet through Dan, who I've known for years since I first came out to California. So I am originally from Syracuse, New York, and had an opportunity to work in baseball as an athletic trainer, and I had done that with the Cubs for a few years, and then to the Giants. And when I came to the Giants, I literally packed up my little Saturn, shipped it across the country, and went to spring training, and I was a single-A trainer in San Jose, California, for the San Jose Giants.
For the San Jose Giants.
Yep.
How did you run across Dan Taylor in that process?
So through my 4 or 5 seasons with the Giants, my first year in single A, and then the last years were in triple A, Dan was here still broadcasting, and I was the athletic trainer for your Fresno Grizzlies.
Okay.
We were at Biden Field at the time, and then through the opening of the new ballpark where you presently go now. So I met Dan through his sports broadcasting and me being the trainer for the Grizzlies, and we've stayed in contact ever since.
Ever since. And everybody that knows you has such great things to say about you, Rick. And so you've been working there at Sierra Pacific Orthopaedics and working as director of sports medicine. So you haven't strayed far from what brought you to California in the first place, still working in sports medicine.
I have. The opportunity here when I first came to the Grizzlies, Dr. Eric Hansen, one of the founders here of Sierra Pacific Orthopaedics, is the team doctor for the Grizzlies. And that's how we developed our relationship. And as they opened Spock in 2002, the opportunity to have this sports medicine position, they were kind of fledgling, and it was the foundation. They wanted to contract with Clovis Unified Schools to have the athletic trainers in schools, and I want somebody to kind of run with it. And I elected to leave baseball at the time, and they made a great offer, and and for 18 years, I've been overseeing the athletic trainers at Clovis High School on behalf of Spock. Clovis Unified contracts with us, and so we've done something right. We just did our next contract for the next 3 years. So I've been ingrained in the sports community here quickly. The great part is that Spock kind of gave me carte blanche and the keys and said, here, develop it. We don't have a program, started from square one. So I was very, 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 very fortunate.
And you were able to innovate and figure out how to do that through their organization. Very cool.
Then I had an opportunity in 2007 to go back to baseball while I was here at Spock, and with their blessing, the head athletic trainer for the Giants had retired and gone on to the Dodgers. The Dodgers and Stan Conti called and said, look, I know you're in a great position there. We don't want to make anybody, but this is a big opportunity. It's a major league job. So with the blessing of, and the doctors here in the group, I went to work for the Los Angeles Dodgers for 3 years, and worked and was able to keep my home here and worked a little bit in the off season, helping still here at Spock. So my relationship hadn't dissolved one bit.
One bit, and probably strengthened their program even better. I mean, you're bringing a world of knowledge into the program.
And I did it with their blessing, which is great, which was important. So then when my baseball career had run its course and it was 10 years and it was time, and you're in the pension and it's time not to travel, I had an opportunity. Spock was open and said, yes, let's go. Here I am.
Talk about, I always say it, but Fresnans are sometimes our worst enemy of our product of the Valley. But you came from out of the area. You came from New York. You come to Fresno. You planted your roots. It's a great place to have a family, and you have everything at your fingertips. Really, being here in Fresno,
you really do. Coming from upstate New York, you have this vision of California that you see on TV, and it's really about 20 square miles between Laguna and Huntington, because that's what you think California is. You don't understand the rest of it until you come out here. So it does. I'm sure it does get a little bit of a bad rap, but it's still California, and you're still 3 hours from the coast. You're about 4 hours to Tahoe. I'm sorry. And it's welcome to the world of Zoom, right?
Yeah.
And you're really, I mean, it's a great place to raise a family. I'm very fortunate. It's California enough for me, put it that way.
California,
I wanted to pull in a palm tree when I built my first house, and I didn't think that was too much to ask in California.
So you put in your palm tree.
Exactly. I had a pool and a palm tree.
Beautiful. So while you're there at Sierra Pacific Orthopaedics, a partner that you're working with, during the time of the pandemic, give me an idea. How did that day go when the epiphany hit and all of a sudden you had a solution that would help businesses, organizations with today's being able to screen people in this pandemic that we're in? How did that all go about?
So the timeline is fairly simple. So March the 10th, they pretty much canceled the NCAA basketball tournament. March 11th, they closed the NBA. Spring training closed the 12th, that Thursday, and high school sports, college sports. And then that Friday, the 13th of March, they closed schools completely. So over that weekend is when things really started to ramp up in Fresno with people screening and the concern that COVID was now here. And the discussions over the weekend with our HR director, Chris Johnson, our CEO, Joe Clark, and then Jeremy, who's our COO and information technology officer. I started with, guys, are we going to need to screen patients? And we have about 1,000 people that come through our doors, all 3 buildings a day, the CDC. And they're like, yeah, we're going to watch it. And this was, and it was a little bit of a joke. It was, hey, I'm just trying to find a way to stay essential because schools are out. Fresno State's out. Elective surgery patients are down. I need to find a way to stay essential. So I offered to be essentially Dustin Hoffman and take the lead on the virus for the practice, because you were going to need something like that.
Yeah.
2 or 3 days later, management committee meeting, and a Wednesday night, that night about 9 o'clock, I get a text that, hey, if you got your screening stuff in order, we want to start screening everybody tomorrow morning on Thursday. I said, I'll be there at 6 o'clock and we'll get started. So first 2 days in, we've deployed employees between all 3 buildings, taking temperatures and asking the same 5 questions to everybody that comes through the door.
Yeah.
Pieces of paper, writing it down if they're positive,
Going through that whole process.
Exactly. And that Friday night, I think it was the 19th, Joe and Jeremy texted me and said, hey, thank you, for getting this done. It's pretty amazing. It was seamless. We're not scaring the patients away. That was one of our concerns. Yeah. So at that point, I said, guys, this is about 10 o'clock. I said, you can I wonder if we could build an app for this and automate it. Because really, the goal is not to have people lined up at the door around everybody, signing papers, and there's got to be a more efficient way to do this. I mean, I had been doing it for 3 days now, and I'm tired of repeating the questions and all that, but there's got to be a way. You don't want the employee or the patient to come to the building with the symptoms. You want them to be able to report them before they get there and keep them away. The model I had, the vision was in my brain was from baseball. I'm thinking, okay, you've got the baseball player that comes to the ballpark and says, hey, my wife is sick. Can we get her in with Dr. Kraft or Dr. Monteleone, the primary care doctor? She's sick, she's got the flu. Now the ball player has come from home and drugged whatever cooties they have at home into the ballpark, through the stadium, through the clubhouse, into the athletic trainer. And that's kind of what you don't want. And that's what the CDC and our Fresno County Department of Health, they don't want that interaction. That's the exposure. So I said,
And is that what they consider? Is that what they consider the contact tracing, like tracing it back to the source?
So part of that is contact tracing, but this is more the exposure. So this is where the exposure rules kind of were generated out of CD. So if you have a symptomatic patient at home that you live with and you've had close contact with someone suspected of or confirmed to have, that's where the virus continues to multiply exponentially as far as exposures and infections. So I thought, this is how you kind of want to stop this a little bit. You keep them home. The isolation, the quarantine ideas. So literally 2 hours later, now it's about midnight or 12:30 in the morning, Jeremy reaches back out and says, I just hired 4 developers overseas. You need to write down everything you think of. Text me in the middle of the night, text them in the middle of the night, everything you see, how you apply it, a feature, what you'd want on there. Tell me what you'd want. Just continue to tell me what you want. So that went on for 13 or 14 weeks, and development and applying for the App Store through Apple and Google Play, which are very strict. And, do we do this web-based? And I don't know any. I mean, I make Gatorade and tape ankles for a living. So Jeremy's using these tech terms
you're waking up in the middle of the night with an idea and jotting it on a piece of paper and texting somebody.
Exactly. How do we apply it? So I'm just that guy. I'm the other guy. I'm Paul Allen, right? So next thing you know, we have these screens for an app. We have a web-based dashboard. And everything I asked for, the answer was, yeah, we can do that. Yes, we can do that.
Yeah.
And then we sifted some things out. And then second week in June, after getting letters and helping Fresno State Athletics and the county, we now have an app that's native in the Apple Store and native in Google Play. And it's been deployed and it's being used and it's getting some traction. And I'm trying to stay very grounded with it because, there's millions of other people that can do this with resources and, teams of coders, big companies.
Yeah.
We're 2 guys in Clovis.
That have created.
But it makes for a great story. And it'll make for a great book, or it'll make for a great Lifetime movie someday.
So for someone that's listening here on Talk Radio 1550 KXEX here on Business Leaders Live, they understand when you go into a business, they ask the 6 same questions at times, or you're going into, I experienced it with AAA. I was going in to use their DMV services at AAA, and there's a series of questions. Have you had a cough, and those same questions. So that's what it is. It's screening the person and their household on the app, and it's no cost to download the app, Verahealth. And so you download it. Explain that process, how that works. So they download the app, and then talk about how they go about their day.
So the idea was to completely remove the paper and pencil from the screening process. And the more places that are doing this. So you actually download the app and you register just like any other app, and provide your email address, create a password and a login, and then you log in as a user. And instead of being verbally asked the questions or having to fill them out on a piece of paper, it's all done on the app. Thumb swipe. And it's the questions that the health department mandates are being used either at a healthcare facility or a non-healthcare business. One of the goals at the beginning was just to stay ingrained with the health department so we could stay ahead of them. So we didn't have to go backwards and make something meet their requirements. We wanted to kind of pioneer their requirements. And we were very lucky. once the daily screening is done, and you
Can I
submit
add,
it.
Rick, let me add
Sure.
something to that. That, to me, and I've told this to several businesses, don't wait till your city, county, and state level officials try to figure this out. Figure it out for your business and what makes sense to protect your patients, your customers, your clients, and your employees, and create your guidelines to submit, like you said, to the county and stay ahead of them and being able to help them craft the best solutions for our businesses. We know our clients and businesses. We have some incredible input on how to keep them safe and how to keep our employees safe during the process. So you guys are doing it great. I mean, you're staying ahead of the curve, being able to suggest ideas and sort of lead the new guidelines.
So I kind of learned this when I first came back from baseball and with Clovis Unified. So when concussions about 10 years ago became a hot button, it was an epidemic. Leaving baseball and sitting on the concussion committee for the commissioner, we developed the concussion disabled list, or now the injured list, and their concussion protocol. So when I came back full time and was overseeing the high school athletic trainers at Clovis, they said, look, we need to have a concussion protocol. And I said, well, yeah, concussions are getting big, but there's no law or mandate. I said, no, but we need to, this is where I've been, this is what we're doing, this is what they're doing at the next level. So in 2010, we input this concussion protocol at Clovis Unified. Next thing you know, in 2012, CIF and then the state of California make it mandatory and make it a law. So now that model is what I used here. We stayed ahead of it. And it wasn't a big transition for the coaches and staff and families at Fresno Unified because, well, we've been doing that for 2 years. And Clovis Unified got accolades for it. So we did the same thing with Verahealth with Spock. And that's what we have achieved. And there are things that are going to be coming out in the next month or so from our health officer and new health up that essentially tell you that these are the new rules, these are the new mandates, these are things you're going to have to do. And by the way, you can do them in 2 different ways, paper or digitally. And one of the ways is through an app, and the one that we've approved is this one.
Through Verahealth, yeah.
Yeah. So, and that's an evolving, changing situation. And that's what's nice about our IT and Jeremy, my partner, is that it's agile, and it's not just for COVID. It's just COVID is the springboard. Yeah. And I know, Lance, we've talked about this too. There are things that are going to be born out of COVID, unfortunately, just like things that were born out of 9/11. Things like TSA and the Real ID, and you can't take a bottle of water on a plane. You have to take your belt off. You have to take nail clippers. There are things that when they opened up the skies after that, which I was in baseball and lived it instantaneously, that we still do today.
Yeah.
Well,
the shoe bomber. I mean, you still have copper shoes, and it's been the shoe bomber. Yeah.
Yep. No bottled water. Can't take a toothpaste. Can't take nail clippers. There, the Real ID. So there are things I believe that will come out of COVID very similar to that. And part of that I qualify with, as you look at these reopening guidelines that, stage phase 1 through 4.5 or 11.5 or whatever they do. Yeah. There are about 4 things that stayed from phase 1 to the final phase where everything is back open and we're living normal. Physical or social distancing, some version of mask wearing, sanitization, and screenings. I believe those 4 things, just based on what we've seen, aren't going to go away. They'll morph, they'll change. And remember, COVID is a flu virus. Yeah. Every year about November till about May, we have a seasonal flu. So although COVID SARS-V2 may dissipate, influenza does not. Yeah. And I really believe that there are things that you're going to have to do because of that yearly and during that flu season. Yeah, ongoing, and be able to protect yourself from influenza. And right. I think above all too, and this is what I really like about the Verahealth platform, is it gives you a database of record, making sure that you put the
You put it back on the people that are coming into the facility to be able to protect their families, but at the same time, everybody's being screened coming in, and it's built on honor system, so someone honestly has to answer the questions on the app and have permission to come through. And so you
Right.
understand on the radio, so this thing, it downloads from the app. You answer the questions in your household's questions if you choose to do that. And when you answer those questions, it gives you permission now to go to the facility that is using Verahealth. And then it scans with a QR code, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And that QR code from an application like an iPad system set up at the office. Like I went to Dr. Jared Mosley's, a good friend of the radio station, a good friend of ours. And you come into the facility and you scan. If you don't have the app, and you can scan it right on the window with a decal like you have on your binder behind you to be able
Yeah.
to scan the app, download it, answer the questions. And really what it's doing that I see is it's protecting the business and the employees of the business and the customers, giving a layer of protection because of, to me, what a lot of litigation that comes from COVID and what businesses are extremely concerned about. It gives you documentation that someone entering the facility has done the due diligence of answering those questions, and you have a record. And then you're able
It does.
to.
It does. Getting through the stores, there's attestations and HIPAA requirements, and all those things are built in, which gives you this validity to it. No different than signing the attestation on the piece of paper. For the employer, it's a web-based dashboard that your group administrator looks at and can see every employee that's come through the door has done their screening, or every employee that came to the door, the ones that haven't. And you have a record of it, printable, downloadable, emailable, whatever. You don't have to store 225 pieces of paper a day. You don't have to sanitize 50 pencils. Exactly.
Talk to me about how, because I know somebody's listening right now that goes, I still don't get it. I know I have to answer those questions, but how does it work? How easy is it, Rick?
So the idea is, once you answer the questions, we generate what's called a Vera Pass, and it's a blinking icon with a QR code. And wherever Verahealth is subscribed to, whether it be your doctor's office, your child's school, business, or gym, when you walk in the very first place for the day, you will be able to scan that QR code underneath a kiosk-based tablet, iPad, for example. And what that will do is, that's a authoritative source, and it takes you from a pending to completed. So it essentially now gives you the completed pass that you have validated and consented to, but most importantly, you've answered the questions, and now you deny the pertinent negatives. So cough, fever, flu, loss of sense of smell, and fever. The hope and the idea is that you avoid lines, keep people moving, and you're in and out of a location, a business, simply. From the employer's perspective, you now have this web-based database of everybody that's come in, whether you're a gym and its members using it, whether it's a physician's office and its employees, and then the other mass being patients. If it's a school where you're screening every child in the elementary school and every teacher, it's stored and it's validated. When the outbreak happens, or when the exposure happens, because it will happen, and we've learned that.
Yeah.
You are able to go back and look at this electronic historical footprint. One thing that it does not do, GPS, geofencing, Bluetooth, it does not track where you're going or who else is around you. But it will give a historic footprint of where you've been. If, God forbid, there's an exposure and an outbreak at your child's school, the administration has the ability to look up and see in that class who was there that date and time, and report any symptoms. So it starts the contact tracing piece for the county.
And it gives you, as a business, to be able to do your due diligence, to be able to notify your patients, customers, that they could have been exposed?
Absolutely. So now you have the ability to go back and look and inform who potentially was exposed in and around that date and time. One of the ideas we pulled from that was, my wife actually went into a restaurant where, when they were open, they were taking information from you at the door, your cell phone number, your email address, and your physical address.
Yeah.
And we weren't super comfortable with giving out some of that information, not for the fear of necessarily identity theft, but crime of opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they look and see that maybe you're well kept, or your wife has a nice purse, or has a nice SUV, and now they know, you know, you just don't know that. So securely being able to store that information to someone with an authoritative role, a general manager of a restaurant or a gym, is a little more
HR director. There's somebody.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's a little more comforting than just anybody taking down names at the front of a retail place. Will it be a warehouse?
I've heard of fraud situations where they'll sit out
Absolutely.
in front of a grocery store and start to screen taking info until they get ran off. So they weren't even in the grocery store. So
exactly. And for the employer, the employee, the protection there is that the employee actually has an exposure in or outside of the building. It protects the employer because they have a record of the day and time, and that they attested to not having symptoms that day. You know, COVID-19 exposures at work are completely 100% of work comp information. Mm-hmm. So it's difficult to take that away.
Yeah. If a business right now is listening to this, or someone that knows a business that should be looking into Verahealth, how do they go about, Rick? What's the first step? They probably should go look at verahealth.app, APP, and find content so they can read about it. But how does a administrator of a business or HR department reach out to you to investigate it and figure out what they need to do?
The simple email, contact@verahealth.app, or even rick@verahealth.app. And we have a small team that we will be able to reach out to you and provide the information. The website is simple and informative and short and brief, unlike me. And it will really, it hits home. The other thing is you can go to the App Store, go to your Google Play Store, depending on your device, and download the app for free. Mm-hmm. And move through the process. You won't be able to have a completed pass, but you'll get to that pending, and you'll have an idea of what it takes.
Yeah,
we've enabled it. We've enabled it, you know, seamlessly to sign in with Facebook and Apple and Google. We've enabled it with to Siri and to Alexa as well. So virtual assistants that can help you get to there. So we've tried to make it as simple and think of all the ways used in a critical mass or in public, the easiest way to get it done prior to walking into the gym or school or the doctor's office or ballpark.
Yeah, and the big thing I see it too is, like you said, it gets rid of the paper and pen, which can transmit. I mean, that's the whole idea, is trying to keep from, during this time of pandemic, is really creating less touch, what they call it, touch spots, and be able to move you into the venue faster, move you into the building faster. So you're keeping accurate data, you're getting that data, and you're going through. I'm sure many businesses, for people that are not up to smartphone or to that point, there's ways to take care of that manually and be able to data enter it into your mainframe of your back end of the app. But most people today, it's pretty easy. You go into a restaurant these days, when we could go in for a little bit, and you got the menu through a QR code. And I would see people that were boomers that were opening up their camera phone and scanning it and going, "Hey, here's the menu right here. This is great." And I can actually see it. That's the other part.
Yeah. No, they look at them while they're waiting for the table. It may be 30 minutes till their table's ready. They scan the QR code and look at the menu, and they have an idea of what they're going to order, and it moves it through. You know, in the restaurant, in bar entertainment, the same thing. While you're waiting for the table, you scan the QR code, complete your screening, and then when you get to there and they call and tell you, "Mr. Cardoza, your table for 27 is ready," then everybody's already been screened and they see you. So there's multiple applications for it in my vision, per se, across all the different commerce channels or lanes.
So, Rick, you seem like you're an innovator, and everything you probably did when you came out in sports medicine and working in Major League Ball, and then going down with Dodgers and constantly trying to innovate and bring it back to Fresno. Is this something you've always wanted to do, to be in sports medicine? Or what, as a young Rick, what were you thinking of in New York?
Well, growing up playing 3 sports and being the smallest guy on the team, but still playing 3 sports, I realized early that I probably wasn't going to be a professional athlete. So I wanted to be Bob Costas. I thought to call NBC Sports and to call baseball games, that's what I wanted to do. A very good friend, mutual friend of ours, and most of the listeners here are going to know Paul Loeffler, the voice of the Bulldogs.
Oh, yeah.
Every year he invites me to at least one baseball game, and I do the color commentary. And I absolutely love it. It's a blast.
Well,
And
I'll tell you what, I hate to interrupt, but I produce Fresno Grizzlies baseball, and we also have done some producing for Fresno State. I'll make sure you get in there next to Dan Taylor, your buddy, and you can do the color on some games.
I would love to do a game. It's great. I have a blast with it. But getting injured at basketball camp, realizing I wasn't going to be a professional athlete, I thought, well, let me see if I can figure out a way to fix them. So I wanted to be a part of that sports and athletics at the highest level, and I just had to find a way to get there.
Yeah.
So, and I did. I was very lucky.
In this past hour, I've been talking to Rick Lembo. Rick is with Sierra Pacific Orthopaedics, the director of sports medicine and also patient care coordinator. And he created a platform with him and his buddy and came up with Verahealth. And Verahealth is doing screening as you have people come into your facility, getting rid of the pen and the paper. And it's here to stay. But before that, Rick, we talked about, before the commercial break, something to help connect you to Rick, something that maybe you don't know about Rick. What would you share, Rick?
Believe it or not, I like to cook. I'm a bit of a foodie, and a lot of that's driven from my parents being Italian-American immigrants and then traveling in baseball into many cities, whether they be the minor league cities or the major league cities. You get an opportunity to dine in an awful lot of nice restaurants and an awful lot of really bad restaurants.
Oh, yeah.
So I've become a foodie and a little bit of a critic to a point.
I figured you're Italian, and I knew you came from New York, so I had a feeling food is going to be high on the list.
Well, and you like to eat, and my wife, who cooks and is an excellent cook, I am a self-proclaimed pizza snob.
Oh.
So I am very critical when it comes to especially pizza and wings, going to school in upstate New York, and but there's some great places here. But yeah, no, I love to cook.
Do you happen to have one of those outdoor brick ovens to cook your
Not
food?
yet. I'm working on it. If we need about 25,000 more subscriptions, to be honest, and that's my little GoFundMe right there. And then I'll be. No, I'm just kidding. We don't have one yet, but no, we continue to have the discussion. I haven't figured out a way to. I have figured out a way how to do it on the grill though, so it works out.
Oh yeah, I love those the wood brick oven pizza. There's nothing like it when it comes out of there. That's amazing stuff. So you like to cook. So if you meet Rick or you're getting Verahealth, you have something in common with cooking. It's a way to me to create more connections and more dialogue. But Verahealth, so you and Jeremy created that. You're up to about 50,000 subscribers plus, I believe, right now. And
we have a new medical facility, dental office, Dr. Mosley, our Spock here at Sierra Pacific, which is 225 employees, and gratefully IQ in all 3 of their locations. And yesterday we were able to make a little bit of a plunge into our ag, which is so important here in the Valley. PR Farms has joined the Verahealth family, for lack of a better phrase.
The Ricciuti family, they're great.
The Ricciuti family, yeah, they're great, and they took a flyer on us, said absolutely. And so for their employers and for their development project, the Row, which is a mixed use residence and retail. So we're the Finnegan family with Clovis Chrysler Dodge and Jeep as well. We're very grateful.
And might I add, Brian, Tim Jr. are past alumni of the 40 under 40. Tim Sr., not so 40 under 40.
He was never under 40. Tim Sr. was never under 40.
See, Senior never was under 40. Yeah.
Yep.
He's a great guy. Love the guy.
And Fit Republic, one of our gyms here, they have 11 locations. They were the first one to take the bait, and they've deployed, and they were on the news a little bit, trying to buck the system a little bit, but safely. So I'm grateful for those and there are others that are showing interest, and I'm grateful for the traction.
And I hope everybody that listens to this program, and if you're not too sure about exactly how it works, because it is a little confusing at first until you really get to look at it and you realize it's very simple. And if you go to Verahealth, that's VERA health.app, it'll give you a simple write-up there that gives you an idea of what the app is about. You simply download it, and as you go about your day, whoever has Verahealth, you're clear for what, a 16-hour window? Is that how it works?
Yeah, we have it set for 24 and 16. It will depend on your group. We try to make it as agile for people like the nurses or police officers that shift work versus the 9 to 5 people like you and I. Well, I'm 9 to 5, you're 9 to 11, and then you're on vacation. But, yeah, exactly.
7, yeah.
But yeah, no, and so the hope is that as this gains traction and it's used in multiple spaces, it makes your day easier. It reopens and keeps businesses open safely. And it would be great for the mom to be able to drop their kids off for school, go to spin class, into Target, and just be able to do this app and show that they've screened once a day. So we're hoping for mass use in the county, and we're taking care of the county. We didn't want to go to the Bay Area or LA because there are things, they don't care about the Central Valley. We have to care about the Central Valley. And that's one thing that we really, really strive to. And what works in those places may not work here. Yeah. So this is locally sourced for a reason.
Yeah, homegrown. But
to take care of us.
And Verahealth, as it, how did the name come about? We got about 2 minutes here. How did you come up with the name Verahealth?
We talked about being verified and being verified that you've done your screening, verified that you don't have a temperature. So reporting that pertinent negative. And that's how it came about. And then actually Allie picked the colors. My 8-year-old daughter picked the colors.
Oh,
and she also added she had some technical input. We were in the pool and she said, Alexa, play Katy Perry's Daisies. And I said, So I literally sent a text to Jeremy, and the next day the build came out and we were able to access that virtual assistant, whether it be Alexa or Siri.
Yeah.
So Allie also made us move the button because she didn't like where the button was. She thought it should be in a better spot. So to say that Jeremy and I came up with this on our own, his wife Brianne, his boys have had an awful lot to do with it, and Ray and I, our 8-year-old daughter, had
a lot of input.
Spirit in there.
She's got a career in marketing and planning in this.
Oh yeah, no, yeah, she does. She wants to make bracelets and hand them out to the kids like Livestrong bracelets, so that you know that you've done your Verahealth and donate it back to the COVID fund. She wants to sell them.
Well, I encourage everybody again. Make sure you go download that app, Verahealth.app. You can get information, or you can go to your Apple or Google Play Store and download Verahealth. That's VERA Health, and then you can download it. Rick, thank you for being on Business Leaders Live. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
You're a busy guy.
I appreciate it. Lance, thank you very much for all your support during this too. You've taken an interest early on as we developed and gave some pointers and some tips and some exposure. So I appreciate your help as well.
Thanks, Rick. Everybody, make sure you make that nomination. Go to 40u40.com and nominate somebody over the age of 40. It needs to be recognized in the class of 2020. That's all the time we have. We'll talk to you next Tuesday morning right here on Business Leaders Live.